Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Iggy's Toy Parade and Soldier Review. Once again, this is your host, Iggy. And today we're going to be talking about some Marx pioneers. Now, this painting that you see in the background comes from the Time Life series, The Old West. It's a painting by William Ranney, done in 1850, and it's called The Pioneers. A couple things to note about the painting is that the pioneers more than likely would have been walking alongside, as you see this gentleman with the rifle. Uh, they more than likely would have been walking, including the women and children. Um, it shows the family dog sniffing at one of the oxen. Oxen were not good long distance draft animals. Mules and horses would have been better for long distance travel. If they did use oxen, it probably would have been a team of 4 instead of 2. But oxen were very strong and they could pull heavy loads, so that was one of their advantages. Now, we'll be talking about Marx figures. These figures are reproduction, and there is a method in which you can use to, or a technique, or whatever you want to call it, to identify actual Marx figures and those that are reproduction. Now, these are reproduction, even though they are stamped Louis Marx Company. And the way you can tell is the kind of plastic that was being used. Plastic years ago, if my memory serves right, it was more of a dull matte finish. And these are shiny plastic or glossy plastic. Also, this is a harder plastic, the ones that you see in the front here in the tan color. And if you guys are buying hard plastic figures, don't bother storing them. It's a waste of time, because what will happen is that most of your figures will emerge from storage broken. For instance, to illustrate that point, of all these figures that you see in the front here, only this small group here on the corner is undamaged. To give you some idea of the things that were breaking off, I give you a close-up of this. Here's all the parts that fell out of the bag when I opened it up. You can see arrows, rifle butts, even an arm. You gotta hand it to him. So these figures are virtually, I don't know, unless I can repair them or convert them to something else, they're virtually useless. For instance, these guys originally had arrows stuck in their back on the upper right shoulder in the back. They had an arrow sticking out. In fact, with this brown group here, which is a little bit softer plastic, there's absolutely no storage casualties whatsoever. Each one of these figures is intact. And I was very pleased to see that. Now, the Marx figures, they have an interesting, you know what, guys? I'll show you the bottom of the figure so that you can see the Marx symbol. Let's see, let's pick one of these from up here, and we'll give you a close-up of the stamp. Now, it says Louis Marx, however, instead of the axe, well, some of these might have an axe, I don't know. Axe not what you can do for your country. No, I have that backwards. It's axe not what the country can do for you. Anyway, Iggy's not a historian. What was I saying, for God's sake? Oh, it has a Roman numeral, and this is figures that were probably molded from post 1980 in Mexico, because Mexico purchased all the molds for toy soldiers when Marx went under in 1980. Actually, Marx sold out to, in 1972, Marx sold out to, what was it? Pillsbury, not Pillsbury, Quaker Oats. And then Quaker Oats sold out to a European company, and they went bankrupt in 1980. And that's how Mexico got a hold of the old Marx molds. But you have to be very careful because some of these reproductions will actually have the Marx logo stamped on the bottom. And other reproductions, that circular crater that the markings are in will just be plain. It won't say anything. So you got to judge whether or not you have a reproduction or an original based on the patina of the plastic. In this case, these are all in a glossy plastic. And also, experience will teach you which is which. I'm still trying to learn it. I've made the mistake of buying figures that I thought were original, and I was told by another collector that they were not. So it's something that you have to learn. Some of you will pick it up pretty quickly. Others, like me, who are kind of slow. Actually, I did have a lot of problems in school, so I shouldn't make fun of that. I was what you call a D plus student, and possibly an F student. I wasn't very bright. Anyway, what was Iggy saying before he went off on another tangent? Oh, you know what? The first group of pioneers that they had for their Fort Apache in 1951 and their Fort Dearborn were 45 millimeter, and I don't think they were very good sculpts. These here they introduced in 1956. It was a gradual takeover from the 60 millimeter, and it was a transition period because something like Fort Apache, under the Rin Tin Tin show banner. Do you guys remember that show, Rin Tin Tin? I used to love that show. When I think his name was Lou Ayres. Was that his name? The guy who played Corporal Rusty? When he passed away, I felt pretty bad. It's like a little piece of your youth has disappeared. But it was, they mixed 60 millimeter character figures with 54 millimeter figures. They introduced horses that were smaller than what they had before, and the riders were different size. So it took a while, but by the end of 1956, they pretty much were all in 132 scale or 54 millimeter. The reason for that transition was cost savings, production cost savings. They could make more figures using less plastic. And that's what the play sets were all about, is to give them a punch, an advertising edge. The kids really liked it when the sets came with a lot of pieces. And by reducing the cost of production, they were able to put more into the play sets. Okay, guys, let's see. Oh, something that breaks quite often with these figures. See that pheasant that is in his right hand? I don't know if you can see that. That frequently you'll find that figure with the pheasant broke off. So I was really amazed when these that suffered such damages that none of the pheasants were broken off. There's also a figure that is carrying a turkey in his left hand. And some of these poses, or poses that looked very similar, were used in their Alamo playset and their Fort Apache, as well as Boonesboro playset. Now, these particular figures, I think, were made for the Fort Boonesboro playset. But like I said, they used some of the figures in the Alamo set and Fort Apache, and then some that were clearly, inspired models, I suppose, for the other poses. It wasn't until I think 1967 that they made a Ford Apache that had soldiers. Previous to 1967, they had a mixture of what they called pioneers and cavalry. And the cavalry were using flintlock rifles and powder horns. However, in 1964, they introduced what a lot of collectors call long coat cavalry, and those poses are excellent. I've got some reproductions of those, and they're very good. And I think they made them for the Montgomery catalog. However, Sears and other companies also feature them. Each store was trying to get an exclusive, but Marx would only offer that exclusive for a limited time. Sometimes the exclusive was the color. Sometimes it was a new figure sculpt, like the falling cavalry rider, which I think originally came in a cream color. I have a couple of those in reproduction. I do have original things, but most of my things I think are reproductions because I started purchasing them in the late 1980s and 1990s, with a few in the 2000s, but not many. Okay, that's all I've got for you this time, guys. I hope I wasn't too much in the weeds for you. Uh, I think I'll meet you on the trail, on the dusty trail, and we can get together at Roy's Ranch, and maybe we can bring our figures in a shoebox and sit out under the shade tree and drink orange crush and eat red licorice and play with our figures. That wouldn't that be fun? It doesn't have to be orange crush. It could be orange Fanta. Um, did you know that you guys know the European guys know that Fanta was a German invention during the 1930s. I think it's because Coca-Cola cut them off. I'm not sure. At any rate, I'll do one more close-up of the painting. It's very good. I wouldn't mind having a copy of this. Iggy doesn't get anything original because he can't afford it. In fact, I can't even afford the reproductions, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, that's a pretty cool painting. That would look nice in your living room above the sofa. Well, if you had a wife or girlfriend that was sympathetic and didn't put a Thomas Kincaid flowery looking thing on the wall instead of this. Anyway, I love the sky. It's very dramatic. You see in the background there's a another wagon following along. Okay, guys, I mentioned that we're going to meet on the Dusty Trail and head on over to Rogers Ranch. I would sing Happy Trails to you until we meet again. I can't sing worth shit, so that's where we're going to leave it. And for those of you who've enlisted in the Iggy Army, I want to thank you very much. And thank you for getting Iggy with it, guys. Iggy! We got Iggy with it. Go. Get Iggy. I don't know what that was, but it's probably someone's going to say it's racist. So let's say goodbye before Iggy gets carried away. And that's it.